Hello everyone, this video is a sequel to Legendary Knights of the Middle Ages and is based on the recommendations you left in the comments under part 1. I encourage you to give the first video a watch if you are interested in learning about history's greatest knights. You can find a link to it in the pinned comment and in the upper right corner. Bertrand du Guesclin. Bertrand was one of France's most celebrated military leaders during the 100 Years' War, known for his tactical brilliance and fierce loyalty to the French crown. Born into minor Breton nobility, Bertrand was not initially expected to achieve greatness, but his tenacity and skill in battle elevated him to prominence. He earned the nickname the Black Dog of Brocéliande, referencing his origins in Brittany and his relentless nature in warfare. He first gained fame defending the city of Rennes against the English during the War of the Breton Succession, a civil war between rival claimants to the Duchy of Brittany. Although captured several times throughout his career, including at the Battle of Auray and the Battle of Nájera, Bertrand always managed to secure his release, often through large ransoms, due to his value to the French. One of his most significant achievements came in 1369, when he helped Henry of Trastamara defeat Pedro I of Castile at the Battle of Montiel, solidifying Henry's claim to the Castilian throne and securing a key alliance for France. This victory solidified his reputation and led to his appointment as Constable of France in 1370, making him the kingdom's top military commander under King Charles V. In this role, Bertrand led campaigns to reclaim French territories from English control, employing guerrilla tactics and avoiding large, decisive battles, a strategy known as Fabian warfare. His victories at Pont-Valin and Chaillot were key in reversing English gains. Despite his relentless success, Bertrand remained humble about his background, famously refusing the title of constable at first, citing his low birth. However, King Charles V insisted, knowing that Bertrand's military prowess was invaluable. He died in 1380, during a military campaign in Languedoc from dysentery. His death was mourned across France, and he was buried in the royal necropolis of Saint-Denis, a rare honor for someone not of royal blood. Chevalier de Bayard. Born Pierre Terray, was a French knight renowned for his chivalry, bravery, and military skill. He became known as the knight without fear and beyond reproach, a reputation that followed him throughout his life. Pierre was born into a noble family in Dauphine, southeastern France, and was trained as a page in the court of Charles I of Savoy. By the age of 20, he had become a knight after distinguishing himself a number of times in tournaments, and by taking part in the 1494 conquest of Naples. His first major battle came at Fornovo in 1495, where he played a key role in helping the French army escape an ambush by a combined Italian force. Another remarkable event was his defense of a bridge near Garigliano in 1503. Facing a Spanish ambush, the French were forced to retreat and regroup. Bayard led a unit of soldiers and defended the bridge, covering the retreat, holding off the enemy long enough for French forces to regroup. This act of heroism became one of the most famous moments in his career, even though the French eventually lost the battle. Throughout his life, de Bayard employed a combination of traditional chivalric tactics and emerging Renaissance military strategies. He excelled as a cavalry commander, but also adapted to the rise of gunpowder and infantry formations. He refused to plunder conquered cities, and treated even his worst enemies with dignity and respect. At the Siege of Brescia in 1512, Bayard led several charges into the heart of the city, rallying the troops multiple times after being pushed back. Despite being seriously wounded, his leadership allowed the French forces to eventually break into the city and achieve victory. His ability to inspire his troops, often leading from the front, became a hallmark of his leadership style. Unlike many commanders of the time, Bayard was admired not just by his men, but also by his enemies, who respected his fairness and honor in battle. Bayard's death in 1524 marked the end of an era for French chivalry. During the French retreat from Italy, he was struck by an arquebus shot while covering the retreat of French forces near the Sesia River. Mortally wounded, he refused to be moved from the battlefield, requesting that his sword be placed in front of him as he died, facing his enemies. Even his Spanish foes, led by Charles III, the Duke of Bourbon, mourned his loss and recognized that a gallant and virtuous knight is being lost that day. Bayard's legacy endures as a symbol of the ideal knight, embodying the values of courage, loyalty, and chivalry. His life became the subject of several biographies and remains an inspiration in French and European military history. Nuno Álvares Pereira. Nuno Pereira, also known as the Holy Constable, was a key military leader in Portugal's struggle for independence from Castile during the late 14th century. Born as illegitimate son of a noble family of priors and bishops, Nuno began his military career at a young age, showing early signs of tactical brilliance. His rise to prominence came during the Portuguese interregnum, a period of political crisis, when the crown of Portugal was contested by King John I of Castile. Nuno was a staunch supporter of John of Aviz, who would become Portugal's king and lead the country through a critical phase of its history. One of Nuno's most significant victories came at the Battle of Atoleiros in 1384. With an outnumbered force, he used defensive tactics to defeat a larger Castilian army. He arranged his troops in a tight square formation, effectively countering Castilian cavalry charges. His victory not only boosted morale, but demonstrated his innovative use of tactics to outmaneuver larger forces. Another major success followed at the Battle of Aljubarrota in 1385, where Nuno commanded the right wing of the Portuguese army and faced his own brother Pedro, who died during the battle leading a Castilian host. This battle is one of the most famous in Portuguese history, as the Portuguese forces, again outnumbered, crushed the Castilian army, securing Portugal's independence. Nuno was known for his personal courage and his ability to inspire loyalty and respect from his soldiers. His life was marked by devoutness to God as he lived a life of austerity. After the end of the Portuguese-Castilian conflict and the death of his wife, he gradually retired from public life, contributing vast amounts of money towards building churches and supporting veterans of the war. He eventually became a lay Carmelite friar in Lisbon, where he took the name of Friar Nuno of St. Mary. At his deathbed in 1431, he was met for the last time by King John, whom he helped put on the throne in the last recognition of his contributions towards Portuguese independence. Nuno's military successes and personal piety made him a national hero in Portugal, which led to his canonization by the Catholic Church in 2009, where he was recognized as Saint Nuno of St. Mary. Bohemond I of Antioch, also known as Bohemond of Taranto, was a Norman nobleman and one of the most prominent leaders of the First Crusade. Born as the eldest son of Robert Guiscard, Duke of Apulia, Bohemond grew up in a family renowned for its military conquests in southern Italy and the Byzantine Empire. His upbringing in a warrior society and experience in his father's campaigns against the Byzantines in the 1080s helped shape his ambitions and military skills, which allowed him to play a central role in establishing Crusader states in the Levant. Bohemond first made a name for himself in the Byzantine-Norman Wars, where he led Norman forces against the Byzantines under Emperor Alexios I Komnenos. His campaign to seize Byzantine territory was ultimately unsuccessful, but it showcased his talent for siege warfare and bold strategy. Despite his failure in these wars, Bohemond gained a reputation as a formidable and ambitious commander, which he carried into the First Crusade. Bohemond's greatest achievement came during the First Crusade, where he emerged as one of the key leaders among the Christian forces. His most famous victory was the Siege of Antioch in 1098. After a grueling siege that lasted many months, Bohemond used cunning diplomacy to bribe an Armenian guard inside the city, allowing Crusader forces to breach Antioch's walls. Once inside, they captured the city and defended it against a massive counterattack by Muslim forces. Bohemond's role in this decisive victory earned him control of Antioch, where he established himself as its first prince, which made him one of the most powerful rulers in the newly established Crusader states. Tactically, Bohemond was known for his use of deception and psychological warfare. At Antioch, he not only managed to infiltrate the city, but also skillfully defended it through the use of feigned retreats and ambushes. His ability to inspire his men and outthink his enemies set him apart from many of his peers in the Crusader ranks. He was a fearless leader who often fought alongside his soldiers, building a reputation for bravery and charisma. Bohemond's ambitions did not stop with Antioch. In 1107, he launched a campaign against the Byzantine Empire, seeking to carve out additional territory for himself. However, this campaign ended in failure, as he was defeated by attrition during Siege of Dyrrhachium, and forced to sign the Treaty of Davos in 1108, acknowledging Byzantine overlordship over Antioch. Despite this setback, Bohemond retained his title as Prince of Antioch and remained a significant figure in Crusader politics until his death. Bohemond died in 1111, likely in Italy, where he had returned following his Byzantine campaign. His legacy as a military leader and crusader remained strong after his death, with his descendants continuing to rule Antioch for several generations. Archibald the Grim. Archibald was one of the most prominent Scottish military leaders of his time, earning his nickname due to his stern appearance and fearsome reputation in warfare. He was the illegitimate son of Sir James Douglas, also known as the Black Douglas, a legendary figure in the Scottish Wars of Independence. Despite his illegitimacy, Archibald rose to power through a combination of military skill, strategic marriages, and loyalty to the Scottish crown. Archibald's first major role in history came at the Battle of Poitiers in 1356, during the 100 Years' War. He accompanied his cousin, William, Lord of Douglas, to France to fight alongside King John II against the English army led by Edward the Black Prince. The battle ended in a disastrous defeat for the French, and Archibald was captured by the English. His captors considered him a valuable prisoner due to his fine armor, but he managed to escape through a clever ruse orchestrated by fellow prisoner Sir William Ramsay of Coluthi. Ramsay staged an argument, convincing the English that Archibald was a lowly servant, enabling his release with the payment of a significantly lower ransom than befitting someone of his pedigree. After returning to Scotland, Archibald rose to prominence. First, he became the Sheriff of Edinburgh in 1360, and became Lord of Galloway in 1369, consolidating his power in southern Scotland. He built and fortified Threave Castle, which became his main power base. He was appointed Warden of the Western March, a key role in defending the Scottish borders against English incursions. His leadership in border warfare was marked by the use of aggressive raids and the capture of strategic locations, such as Lochmaben Castle in 1384, which had been held by the English for decades. His ability to secure and defend these territories alongside him, inheriting even more land after his cousin James Douglas died in battle, made him one of the most powerful nobles in Scotland. Archibald also played a key diplomatic role, being sent on embassies to France in 1369 and 1371 to renew the Auld Alliance, the Franco-Scottish military pact. His influence continued to grow when he married Joanna de Moray, an heiress whose lands brought him significant wealth and power, further strengthening his position within the Scottish nobility. Archibald's military successes and his ability to maintain a stronghold in Galloway distinguished him from his peers. Although not many records of his prowess in single combat exist, his grim reputation among the English, who gave him his nickname, reflected his effectiveness in warfare and his role in pushing English forces out of southern Scotland. Archibald the Grim died in 1400 at Threave Castle, leaving behind a legacy as one of the most powerful and fearsome Scottish warlords of his era. Balian of Ibelin. Balian of Ibelin was a prominent Crusader noble and a key figure in the Kingdom of Jerusalem during the late 12th century. As the youngest son of Bertrand of Ibelin, he inherited the small but strategic lordship of Ibelin. His marriage to Maria Comnena, the widow of King Amalric I of Jerusalem, elevated his status, granting him control of the important city of Nablus and aligning him with the royal family. Balian's military career was defined by his role in the defense of the Kingdom of Jerusalem during the rise of Saladin. He fought at the disastrous Battle of Hattin in 1187, where the Crusader army was decimated by Saladin's forces. Balian managed to escape the battle, one of the few nobles to do so, and retreated to Tyre. Later that same year, Balian became the de facto leader of the defense of Jerusalem, when he was asked by the city's inhabitants to stay and protect them, despite having sworn to Saladin that he would not bear arms. Recognizing the dire situation, Balian was absolved of his oath by Patriarch Heraclius and took command of the city, organizing a defense with only a handful of knights. With limited forces, Balian prepared Jerusalem's defenses, creating new knights from local men. During the siege, after realizing that the city could not hold out, Balian negotiated a peaceful surrender with Saladin. In an act of pragmatism and diplomacy, he threatened that the inhabitants would rather destroy the city and kill each other if no terms were offered for peaceful handover. This forced Saladin to agree to terms that allowed the majority of the Christian population to leave in exchange for ransom payments. Balian himself helped pay the ransom for many who could not afford it. After the fall of Jerusalem, Balian continued to play a crucial role in the Crusader states, participating in the negotiations that led to the Treaty of Ramla in 1192, which ended the Third Crusade and allowed Christians access to Jerusalem. Balian involved himself with politics of the Crusader states for years to come. His skill as a negotiator and his ability to balance military leadership with diplomacy distinguished him as one of the era's most capable Crusader nobles.